I'd only been in the neighborhood 2 days when I noticed the man next door. The house was exactly what I needed. Quiet street, trimmed lawn, a porch big enough for coffee in the morning. After years in a cramped city apartment, I was starving for silence. But that man, he made the quiet feel wrong. He sat in a faded lawn chair under a half-dead tree just over the property line. Not reading, not smoking, just sitting there, watching my house. Every time I looked out, living room window, bedroom, even when I took trash to the curb, his eyes followed me. He didn't wave, didn't speak, just stared. Maybe he was lonely or strange, I told myself. Every place has someone like that, but I couldn't shake the way his presence turned the afternoon sun cold. When I caught him still out there after dark, unmoving under the porch light, I shut the blinds and tried to pretend I hadn't seen him at all. The next day I tried to ignore him. I kept busy unpacking boxes, mowing the backyard, fixing a crooked cabinet door. Every now and then I glanced over, hoping maybe he'd moved on or gone inside, but no. He was still there, same chair, same blank expression. Around noon, as I watered the patchy grass near the fence, he finally spoke. "Don't leave your radio on at night," he said, his voice cracked like dry wood. I looked up, startled. "What?" I asked, half laughing. He didn't laugh back. "That's when they come through. You'll hear them if you let it play too long." Then he went quiet again, like the words had cost him too much to say. I nodded awkwardly and went back inside, heart pounding for reasons I couldn't explain. I didn't even own a radio, but his words stuck to me like damp air. That night, as I walked past my dark living room window, I had the distinct sense that someone was still watching. That night was the first time I heard it. Soft, muffled noises coming from somewhere outside my bedroom window. At first I thought it was just the wind, or maybe raccoons rustling in the hedges, but then I caught something that made my skin crawl. A whisper. Low, wet syllables, too quiet to understand, but definitely human. I froze in bed, listening, barely breathing. The whispering stopped, replaced by a slow, rhythmic scraping, like something being dragged across wood. I crept to the window and peeked out, but the yard was empty. No wind, no animals, no man in the chair. Just stillness. When I turned away, I caught something faint in the reflection on the glass, a shadow ducking out of sight near the fence. I didn't sleep much after that. Every creak of the floorboards, every groan from the walls felt personal, like the house itself was warning me. I told myself I was imagining things. I had to be. The next morning I tried to shake it off. Maybe I'd just been overtired, adjusting to the new place. But as I stepped out to grab the mail, I found something unusual on my porch, a small, weathered envelope. No return address. Inside, there was just a single line written in thick, jagged handwriting. "I can hear you too." My pulse quickened. I looked around, half expecting to see the man in the chair, but he wasn't there. My mind raced. The note could have come from anyone, someone pranking me, or maybe it was just a mix-up. But it felt too deliberate, too personal. I tried to tell myself it was nothing, but when I went back inside, I locked the door and checked the windows, double-checking that everything was secure. For the first time, I noticed the hairs on the back of my neck standing up, the nagging sensation that someone was watching me. Again, I called the police. I didn't expect much, maybe a visit from an officer who'd humor me and remind me it was just a harmless prank or a misunderstanding. But when they arrived, they found nothing. The man next door was just eccentric, they said, probably harmless. Mr. Halsey, he introduced himself as. A man in his late 60s with a patchy beard and eyes too wide for comfort. He welcomed the officers in, offered them iced tea, and even apologized for disturbing the new neighbor. I didn't believe him. When the police left, they gave me a pat on the back and a reminder to keep the doors locked at night. But as soon as I shut the door behind them, the weight of it hit me. How could they not see it? The way Mr. Halsey had looked at me, his smile too wide, like he knew something I didn't. That evening, I watched from my window as he sat back in his lawn chair, just staring. The whispering from the night before crept back into my mind. The next few days passed in a haze, each one stretching longer than the last. But the strange occurrences didn't stop. The air in my house felt heavier, suffocating almost, as though something was always just out of sight. One evening I returned home to find my front door slightly ajar. I knew I'd locked it. My heart pounded as I stepped inside, cautiously scanning the rooms. Nothing seemed out of place, but something felt off. It wasn't until I got to my bedroom that I saw it. My photos, the ones I had carefully framed and hung on the wall, were all out of place. Some were slashed, others turned upside down. The cuts in the pictures weren't deep, but the jagged, uneven marks were too deliberate to be an accident. My pulse quickened. Someone had been here. Someone had gone through my things. I checked the locks again, double-checked the windows, and felt the cold sweat drip down my spine. It wasn't just paranoia anymore. Something was happening. That night, the noises were worse. I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone. Every creak of the house, every shifting sound from upstairs made my stomach lurch. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, trying to ignore the gnawing sensation that something, or someone, was watching me. Then I heard it. Footsteps, slow and deliberate, scraping across the roof. My heart froze. There was no way anyone could be up there. The roof was steep, the shingles old. But there it was again, a drag of feet, a heavy, dragging step, followed by a muffled cough. I sprang out of bed, heart hammering in my chest, and grabbed a flashlight. I ran to the window, shining the beam toward the roof, but there was nothing. No shadow, no sign of movement. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that whoever, or whatever, was on that roof wasn't far. I didn't sleep much after that, every small noise turning into a threat, every whisper in the dark a warning. The power went out around midnight. At first, I thought it was just the storm rolling in, but the whole block was dark. No streetlights, no lights from any of the houses, just a suffocating blackness that swallowed everything. I grabbed my phone, only to realize there was no signal. I tried the landline, but it was dead too. The silence felt unnatural, oppressive, as though the world had just stopped. That's when I saw him. The figure was standing in my backyard, just beyond the window, barely visible in the moonlight. He wasn't moving. Not a step, not a breath. Mr. Halsey. His form was almost skeletal, a dark silhouette against the darkened trees. I couldn't look away, even though every part of me screamed to hide. He was staring at me, unmoving, his head tilted just slightly. The silence between us stretched out like a thread about to snap. Then he slowly raised something shiny, an old knife, its blade glinting in the moonlight, and I knew, without a doubt, he was coming for me. I backed away from the window, heart pounding in my ears. My mind raced for a plan, something, anything to keep me safe, but there was no time. The pounding on the door came next, sharp and fast, like a frantic heartbeat. I stumbled back, my legs unsteady as I fumbled for something, anything, to defend myself. The knife in his hand glinted again, the image burned into my mind. I ran to the kitchen, grabbed the first thing I could find, a heavy cast iron skillet, and held it up, ready to swing. I could hear him now, shuffling outside the door, his ragged breath seeping through the cracks. Then the door handle twisted. He was trying to get in. Desperation shot through me. I pushed a chair in front of the door, then the sofa, anything to slow him down. But I knew it wouldn't be enough. I could hear him moving, the scrape of his shoes across the porch. He wasn't just trying to break in, he was already inside my head. I backed into the corner, my breath coming in shallow gasps. The door shook as he tried again, his voice rasping through the wood. I know you're in there, Jared. You can't hide forever. Every second stretched on. I needed a way out. Then it hit me. The basement. I bolted for the kitchen, threw open the trapdoor, and darted down into the darkness, slamming the door behind me. I waited in silence, my heart pounding. Then I heard it, the sound of sirens. Relief flooded through me, but I didn't move until I heard the officers' voices upstairs. When they found me, I nearly collapsed. Mr. Halsey was arrested and taken away in cuffs. The nightmare was finally over. As I stepped outside, the night felt different. I wasn't sure I'd ever feel safe here again, but at least I was alive. And for the first time in days, I could finally breathe. The moment I stepped onto the porch of my new rental, I knew something was wrong. The neighborhood was too clean, too quiet, like a movie set before the cameras rolled. Rows of identical houses stretched in both directions, each with manicured lawns and trimmed hedges, but there was no sound. No dogs barking, no kids playing, not even the distant hum of a car engine. Just silence, thick and unnatural, pressing into my ears. I felt eyes on me, and when I glanced around, I caught a curtain shift in the house across the street. Then another. Subtle movements, like people ducking out of view. The realtor had called it a tight-knit, peaceful community, but all I felt was dread. I reached for the doorknob, and a sharp, static shock snapped through my fingers. I jerked back, heart skipping. Behind me, a porch light across the street flicked on, though I saw no one there. Then came the soft creak of my door swinging open, even though I hadn't touched my key. I stood frozen, my breath catching as the door eased open with a groan that echoed through the still air. I hadn't unlocked it. Hell, I hadn't even touched the handle since the shock. But there it was, yawning open like it had been expecting me. The inside was dark, too dark. Even with the sun still hanging low in the sky, no light seemed to bleed into the hallway. I stepped inside cautiously, heart pounding, and called out, "Hello?" My voice sounded alien, swallowed up by the shadows. I flicked the light switch. Nothing. Just a soft clicking noise and the smell, faint but sour, like rotting wood or something older. The air was stale, heavy as if the house hadn't breathed in years. I moved farther in, phone flashlight raised, scanning the bare walls and empty rooms. Then I saw it. Near the base of the stairs, a single muddy footprint, too large to be mine, leading further into the house. I hadn't invited anyone in. At least, I didn't think I had. I told myself it had to be from a mover or a maintenance guy, someone who came in before I arrived, but deep down, I didn't buy it. The footprint was too fresh, the edges crisp in the dust. I followed it slowly, each step echoing on the hardwood, phone light trembling in my grip. It led down the hallway toward the kitchen, then vanished near the basement door. That door was shut. My pulse climbed. I hadn't even seen a basement on the listing. I reached for the knob, paused, then knelt down. The floorboards in front of it were slightly warped, and there, pressed between two planks, I saw something odd. A photo. Yellowed with age, edges curled. It showed a family standing on the same porch I had just crossed. Man, woman, 2 kids. Smiling, but their eyes were all scratched out. Every face mutilated with jagged lines. I dropped the photo, heart racing, and backed away from the door. That's when I heard the faint sound of breathing, coming from the other side. I stood perfectly still, holding my breath to make sure it wasn't just mine echoing back. But no, it was too slow, too steady, like someone deliberately inhaling just inches from the door. I took a step back, and the breathing stopped. Silence swelled around me, stretching thin until I could almost hear my heartbeat ricochet off the walls. Then, without warning, the basement doorknob rattled violently. Once, twice. I stumbled backward, nearly dropping my phone. The door didn't open, but something pushed against it from the other side. Wood creaked under the pressure. My mind screamed at me to run, but my body wouldn't move. I was locked in place, every muscle tensed. And then I heard it. 3 knocks, slow and deliberate, from the basement side of the door. Knock, knock, knock. Not frantic, not aggressive, just patient. Like whoever, or whatever, was down there had all the time in the world. My pulse thundered in my ears as I stumbled backward, eyes locked on the basement door. Every instinct screamed to flee, but my feet barely obeyed. I spun on my heel and raced up the stairs, each creak underfoot sounding like a gunshot. At the top, I leaned against the banister, gasping for air, phone light dancing over the faded wallpaper. The battery icon blinked red, 15%. Great, I thought, as if my luck could get any worse. Through the narrow window at the landing, I saw a shape dart across the yard, a tall silhouette slipping behind a tree. I swallowed hard, mind racing. Was it someone watching me? I flicked on my flashlight again and swept the beam across the hallway, revealing nothing but empty doorways. Silence slammed into me, heavier than before, and I realized I was completely alone, except for whatever was trapped downstairs, waiting for me to come back. I shut myself in the upstairs bedroom and jammed a chair under the doorknob like I'd seen in movies, though it offered little comfort. The room was bare except for an old dresser left behind, its mirror cracked in a spiderweb pattern. I tried calling someone, anyone, but my phone refused to connect. No bars, not even Wi-Fi. The realtor had promised a fully wired, smart-ready home, but now I was in a dead zone. I sat on the floor, knees pulled tight to my chest, and tried to steady my breathing. Then something moved in the mirror. I froze. It wasn't me. I hadn't moved. In the reflection, just over my shoulder, a figure stood in the hallway. I whipped around, flashlight cutting through the darkness, but the hallway was empty. When I turned back, the mirror was clean. No cracks, no figure. Just my wide eyes staring back at me, already doubting my own sanity. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. I sat on the edge of the mattressless bed, eyes locked on the door, listening to the house breathe. Floorboards shifted when I didn't move. Walls creaked in patterns too intentional to be random. Around 3 a.m., something started scratching. Not violently, soft, persistent, like fingernails on wood. It came from the other side of the bedroom door. I held my breath, waiting for it to stop, but it didn't. It just kept going. Scratch, scratch, scratch. Then came the whispering. Muffled, incoherent, but directed, like someone was talking to me through the wall. I pressed my ear against the wood, heart hammering, and caught one clear word through the static hush. Return. My stomach turned to ice. I backed away, bumping the chair. The scratching stopped. Silence returned, again too suddenly. But this time something clicked. The doorknob was turning slowly, as if whoever was on the other side knew I had nowhere left to go. I lunged for the window, ripping the curtains aside. Locked, nailed shut from the inside. I grabbed the nearest object, a broken lamp base, and slammed it against the glass. Nothing. It didn't even crack. Behind me, the doorknob clicked again, this time turning all the way. The chair under the knob jumped, metal legs scraping the floor as pressure mounted. I braced for the worst, every hair on my body standing on end. But then, it stopped. Dead still. No movement, no sound. I crept closer, lamp raised like a weapon, and listened. Nothing. I dropped to my knees and peered under the door. Just blackness, until I saw them. 2 feet. Bare, filthy, motionless. They stood inches from the threshold, facing me. My breath caught as one foot shifted slightly, then lifted, lightly tapping against the floor 3 times. Knock, knock, knock. This thing didn't want in. It wanted me to come out. I snapped back, scrambling across the floor until my spine hit the far wall. My phone was dying, 4% now, and the light flickered like it, too, was scared. I aimed it at the door, willing the feet to disappear, but they didn't. They waited. Patient. Still. I had to get out. I grabbed the dresser, dragged it toward the window, and climbed up. Maybe I could break the glass from a higher angle. I raised the lamp and struck hard. A loud crack rang out, but not from the window. It came from behind me. I turned just in time to see the door shudder as the chair splintered. A long, deliberate creak followed as the door inched open, revealing nothing. Empty hallway. But I knew better. I felt it in the air, thick and electric, like a storm was about to break. I stepped down, heart thudding. Whatever was in this house, it didn't want to hurt me. It wanted me to join it. I bolted. Without thinking, I ran, straight for the stairs, then down the hallway, past the kitchen, and toward the front door. My heart hammered in my chest, lungs burning, but I couldn't stop. I couldn't look back. The door was wide open now, like it had been waiting for me. The porch light flickered as I raced across the yard, adrenaline surging through my veins. I didn't stop until I was at the sidewalk, gasping for air, eyes wild. Behind me, the house loomed, silent again, but it felt different. Something had changed. I fumbled for my phone, barely noticing the text that popped up. "Welcome back, Alex. We've been waiting." My hands shook as I dropped the phone, stumbling away, desperate to get to the nearest streetlight. But as I turned the corner, I saw something that made my blood run cold. A figure in the window, smiling, waiting. I couldn't outrun it. It was already here.